right. Thank you for reminding me, Commissioner Williams. Good afternoon. I'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to begin by asking all of us to observe a moment of silence. In that moment, if you would, hold our fellow Countyans involved in the Hex Pole fire in our thoughts, and also take a moment to recognize your privilege to be here today, to serve our country by serving our fellow citizens. This is our prayer. Amen. Thank you. You know, Sherry, or Susan, I neglected to get my flag PowerPoint ready in time. Hang on a second. I think I can do it really fast. It seems very important today.
I can share one for you.
If you have one, that would be fantastic.
I do, if I can find it.
Quick, let's see who's quickest on the draw.
Do you see me?
Yes.
Yay.
It's part of the flag. Oh, there we go.
Here we go, better.
Great. If y'all would join me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Appreciate you being there quick, Susan.
Some days it works out that way.
Our next item is to discuss the agenda for today and identify it as, or determine it as containing essential business for the operation of our government and as requiring a meeting that will be held electronic under the current orders of the governor. So I'd like you to take a look at today's agenda and note, please, that number 13, which was the presentation by Ms. Wood, will not be happening today. She's actually out at the fire site at Hex Pole doing water samples. So she was called out in an emergency. Also, we will not be taking action on environmental cleanup items today because we really didn't get through much of that conversation yesterday. So those topics, I had set some time aside today. We'll just move those to a special called meeting in February as we discussed. And so those two items are removed from the agenda. Otherwise, I think everything remains intact. I just want to make sure that everyone realizes that we are live streaming this video. And can I get confirmation on that? That we are live streaming this video. Susan, are you with us?
I'm sorry, I did have to jump off for a second. We are live streaming. That was your question?
It was. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we are live streaming. We had put out notice. We had all the relevant materials in advance. And so at this point, we need to simply have a vote to determine the essential business of the work that you see on the agenda today.
I would move that we determine that the agenda as presented is essential business of the county, requiring us to conduct it electronically at this time.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Wheeler and seconded by Commissioner Davenport. I'll go ahead and do roll calls just to keep it simple. Commissioner Wheeler?
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yes.
Commissioner Edens?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
And Jones? Yes. Great. All right. So the next item would be approval of December minutes.
I move we accept them and approve them.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Williams, seconded by Davenport. We'll do a roll call. We'll start with Wheeler.
Yes.
Davenport.
Yes.
Edens.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Jones. Yes. Okay. Great. So next item is an update from Dr. Flannery. We're excited to have you here, and let's hear what you have.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. A couple of documents are in HEW committee's packet there. I want to bring your attention to two budget documents. These are just for your consideration and information at this point. We will be coming to you, hopefully, at your February the 4th meeting, requesting our first budget amendment for FY21. But at this time, these documents have not been approved by the school board. I hope to get approval next Thursday, a week from today. Also, I want to let HEW know that the board is actively working on an update to its capital improvement list, those projects that they deem essential. And I'll also have them in front of you with any luck at all at your February meeting. So I will be needing 15 or 20 minutes of your time at that meeting. That's the education portion. Under health and welfare, I can tell you that within the last week, the number of infections and quarantines in the school system have dropped by over 50%, which is diametrically opposed to what's going on in the county overall. I don't know if we're lucky, if we're just doing something right, but I'm glad to report that. And I'm also glad to report that our teachers and other staff members are now actively getting vaccinations. I myself got a shot last Saturday and was glad to get it. And as promised, Chairman Jones, I was brief, and that's the end of my report.
Do you all have questions for Dr. Flannery? And with those other two items sort of at the last minute taken off our plate, certainly willing to and spend a few more minutes talking about the items that Dr. Flannery brought just as points of information this month, since he will be asking us to take action on them next month, or probably will be.
I've got a question, Dr. Flannery. It's a little, it's on topic here, but it's not about next month's items. And just question for understanding, not questioning the decision that was made. We are getting questions, and I'd like to be a supporter of our school system's decision to go virtual to 1st of February.
Yes. Is there any information that you pass along to me that would be helpful, that when I get phone calls and I'm getting some emails of talking about the difference between Washington County and some other systems that are going back to in-face at school learning versus virtual? Is there anything there you can help me with? I can send you our internal numbers, which heretofore had been very high. Frankly, I did recommend that we went back to a staggered schedule at mid-month, and the school board chose to extend it to the 1st of February. So I didn't see that coming. I mean, they made the decision, and I serve at their pleasure, Commissioner. So, but I'm happy to provide you with our internal numbers at any time. Just drop me a line. I'll send you the daily number. I do provide numbers every day to the school board. They were aware of what surrounding school systems are planning to do in January. So they're very well informed. They keep themselves educated on what the infection rates and quarantine rates are like. Our coordinated school health staff attends every school board meeting to answer questions. So they're not in a bubble by any means. They have the information in hand that they need to make decisions. And at the end of the day, I think safety has to take precedent over everything else, including instruction. So I don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but that's about what I've got. That
gives me some more information to pass along to folks and a little more intelligently about the decision that was made. So thank you very much. Yes, it does.
By all means, certainly.
These are such incredibly hard times to navigate, so I appreciate that a lot. Commissioner Wheeler.
Well, following up on what Commissioner Davenport was asking about, and this is more a statement than it is a question, Dr. Flannery, but we received an email, the commission did yesterday, asking us to weigh in on the issue of going back in school. And I think it's just important that people realize that that's a decision that's in the domain of the school board, and we don't have any function there. And the reason I think it's important to know that is that those are the folks that are taking the time to get the information. They're working under incredibly tough circumstances, and I, for one, appreciate the school board having to take on that. It's not a matter of choosing to, but having to take on that responsibility. And I think we just have to support them. We know they are working hard to get the information that you all are providing them in making those tough decisions. But I just want to say that in support of the school board.
Thank you for that kind comment, Commissioner Wheeler, and I'll pass that along. I will tell anybody I am very glad that I am not a member of the Washington County Board of Education at this time. The pressure they're under is tremendous.
Yes, sir.
And Dr. Flannery, the Washington County schools will go back to in-person on February the 5th?
Well, we're full. We're full virtual at least through the 8th, and the board is going to look at it at a special call meeting on the 1st. And, we're hoping that the infection rate will have dropped precipitously by then. I will be recommending a staggered schedule, not a full schedule, because we just can't put that many people in 16 buildings safely in contact distance. Well, that's
sure.
no secret there, but I'm hoping that we can get back in a staggered schedule, probably a 50% schedule after they meet on the 1st.
I believe in our December meeting, you thought maybe and maybe this was your recommendation for K through 5, K through 4, to go back. Is that correct? Do you still see that as your recommendation and then staggered everywhere?
That was the recommendation that we brought to the board when last they met. I met with the curriculum supervisors, and all things considered, we felt like the K4 students are the one that could most benefit by in-person learning, because those are the kids that are still learning to read. And reading is the absolute fundamental skill that they need for success through the rest of their education and through life. That fits right in with our number one mandate, which is having our kids fully literate by the end of the 3rd grade. So yeah, we'll probably stick with K4. I don't see anything changing between now and the next time the board meets.
Thank you. And again, my questions is your understanding, because I want to support your all decisions and in the past and also going in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Davenport.
Commissioner Davenport, I would just tell you, I'm a parent of Johnson City School students and have, received their schedule, which they start on Monday. So if you're looking at a comparison, those city school students will have like 6 days, maybe 7 days of school total, per student by the time the Washington County schools start again. It's like not a lot of days. Just saying.
That's good information.
It's a total of 7 more days that those kids will be in the school building. And I realize that there can be a big impact in one day, but it isn't like they're in school all month, like every single day.
Yeah. And please don't misunderstand my questioning. I'm not saying which system's right. I'm like very difficult position that our school boards are under, and I appreciate them, and I fully respect both for whatever decisions they make. They're making best decisions that they know, and I support both of them.
Thank you.
We all just have to have some grace right now. It's just a tough time. Other questions? Dr. Flannery, thanks for all you do. We'll be looking over your materials, and I'll be sure to schedule a bunch of time so we can think through those issues in February.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to sign off. We may have a snow event coming, and I need to get on the weather report.
Yippee.
Yeah, I see Steve waving there too. So, okay.
Get some sleep tonight, maybe. Now, I know Dr. Burnett was up at 4 o'clock in the morning on our last snow event, driving over bridges. So
we were in school, so then you have to do that. So
right, that's true. We're remote now. So anyway, Dr. Burnett, we'd love to hear from you.
I think Washington County has some similarities with some of the students that they are trying to serve as far as special education. So we're looking at buses for tomorrow. So we've been talking about that today, and that's never fun. But this, in some ways, seems like a perpetual snow day that we've been going through. Thank you all for being here and listening, and thank you for what you do as county commissioners and on this committee. I'll make my update pretty brief. We did announce to come back next week on Monday, pre-K through 4 in person. Of course, we still have about 18% of our students that are remote and chosen that. We're looking at our numbers within our school communities, which means we look at each 8 elementaries, the intermediate, the middle, and the high school separately, and look at the spread. At this point, our numbers are really low. We expect that to increase some, but we just don't know. We're looking at the positivity rate, of course, in Washington County, and doing the contact tracing and requiring masks and other protocols to help keep our schools open. We felt like it was really prudent to open Indian Trail, as large as that school is, in a hybrid model with Liberty Bell and Science Hill beginning Monday, instead of even though it's really technically a big elementary school, as an intermediate school, it's still, even with the remote students taken off the table, we're still looking at around between 900 and 1,000 students on campus. So want to give an opportunity to ease in, practice protocols again, and make sure that we look at those numbers before we put that school back in fully remote. Fully in person. And of course, if the numbers spike due to the holidays, we'll have to reevaluate. We're doing what Washington County and Sullivan County, everybody around us is having to do. So appreciate those comments to Dr. Flannery. I know it's a huge burden for him and for the school board to deal with in not just Johnson City, but every community around is dealing with the same thing. We're working toward our 2 middle school plan. And going with that, we had to increase some capacity at our elementary schools. So we have work and do some improvements at Indian Trail. It was built and designed initially as a middle school, moved it to system switched over to an intermediate, but it still is a middle school, has middle school facilities, has football and softball, baseball field, soccer, all those things in a full-size gymnasium. Some of the things are being upgraded, just so you know. We had some inequities between Liberty Bell and Indian Trail as far as their special education services. And those upgrades are being completed this winter. Working on that now, looking at storage on the back side of that building. If you go by there and see some construction, that's so that the storage that was the athletics changing. Our locker rooms are essentially being used for storage in that school and have since it was built. Seasonally, they would move it back when it was a middle school, move it back and forth. So we're going to be able to get that storage back into a facility that'll be much better. It'll be a much better situation for that school and those students. Adding those 4 classrooms on at Southside Elementary, it's on the 2nd floor. Woodland Elementary School started that work. That school is almost 30 years old, if you can believe that. That is looks really new, but it's old. It's got some age on it. So go look at it. We're going to have HVAC units replaced at that school as well, at Woodland, and then Lake Ridge Elementary School. Going to do an additional 8, and that'll allow us to have space at our elementary school for those 5th graders to come back into those elementary schools and give us that space we need so desperately at our 2 middle grade schools. you drive by Liberty Bell and it looks so big, but a lot of that is not usable space as it might look. A lot of that's those closed-in hallways from back when that was Independence Hall, Constitution Hall, and then Liberty Bell, the service center in the middle, where it was a young man. And then at Town Acres, we're in the short term, community feels it's really important to secure that open concept that they have over there for 3 buildings in that open campus style of buildings. So the school board and the city commission are looking at that. How much would it cost to temporary add some security to that building? We'll also begin our transition this spring as we start looking at staffing for the school. The 5th grade moving back down year after next, and then having 2 schools at 6-8 middles that are very comparable. If you go to our middle school plan on our website, you can see those numbers which we update every so often as far as demographics. They're very, very similar. Indian Trail being a smaller building, a little bit smaller enrollment. And then we've had, as Dr. Flannery talked about, we've been fortunate enough to have teaching staff and other staff members who have received the first round of vaccine. One of the things we heard that was really good on the Northeast Regional call was there's a concern about this window when you get your second vaccine. There's an issue if you get it too early, but if you get it after that 4-day window, that's okay. So that was good to hear. We're going to allow staff to leave, employees to leave if they get that text or that notification that they can get that second round or that first round of the vaccine. We're going to work with everybody to do that, and working with our employees as well with those additional COVID days where they won't have to take, won't be necessary to take sick leave if they're in quarantine and what have you. We're pretty conservative, and we think that's the right approach to take as far as contact tracing and quarantine follow through with, and we collaborate very closely with our regional health department partners, Dr. Thomas in particular, and Dr. Kursky and their staff. And our number one goal is to do school safely. And if we have to make any adjustments to our schedule, we'll do that. And the school board will support those because we're safety first. And got to keep, I don't know how many times I've had to have conversations that we have school for children. That's why we're here. But we also, it's paramount that we do our very best to safely do that for our faculty and our other employees in our school system. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer, or anything else that's on your mind you'd like to ask.
Commissioner Wheeler.
First of all, I appreciate the update on your some of the capital improvements and things going on. That we're glad to hear that. And secondly, the comments that I made to Dr. Flannery were because of a specific email that we've gotten as commissioners, but they ring true for the city school board as well. We appreciate everything that your boards are doing and you and Dr. Flannery are doing, and just want to say that about both boards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you for being here, Dr. Barnett. We always appreciate having you, and it has really helped to, particularly the capital plans, updates, keep us all kind of working in the same direction and mindful of each other's needs, and that's great. So thank you.
If you have something specific in any of these meetings you'd like for me to address, I'd be glad to work on that as well. Things like learning loss, we'll know more about that as we move through and have more assessment data. But it's good to, I look forward to giving you all these updates and working with you, and look forward to when we'll be back in person in that hot room in the courthouse. So thank you all.
Thank you. Just a couple of updates that relate to the schools. One is that I have had some really good conversations with Jason Day, who chairs the school board, and he is working with the school board and the Tennessee School Board Association consultants to work on a strategic plan for this for the school board. They'll be working on that strategic plan in the next several months, and also this is where the time frame when they start to look for a new superintendent as well. And he and I actually had a call with that consultant, and she really emphasized the importance of involving the county commission in their strategic planning process. Not that we would necessarily help them devise it, but that we would just be able to hear kind of how it's going as it's developing, and sort of feel like we're in the loop a little bit on what's being discussed. So that that's sort of temporarily sort of positioned as maybe another workshop. I know you all love that. And whether it's just you or whether it's the full commission sitting in and listening to sort of what the school board is thinking about or dreaming about, I don't exactly know what the format would look like yet, but just so you know, that's something that Mr. Day and I have been speaking about, and I'm really excited to see where his leadership will take the Washington County School Board in the months ahead. So I'll leave that there. Okay, anybody have anything else on the topic of schools? And if not, then I'm going to go ahead and move it right along to our next item, which relates to the Drug Dealer Liability Act lawsuit. And if you were able to look over your materials in advance, as you'll see, just after our last action on this item, there was an exciting twist in the plot. I'm going to allow our representing attorneys here to bring us up to speed on that and talk to us a bit about what's going on. And welcome back, Mr. Orlandi. And I'm not sure I've met all of you, but whoever needs to, if we were in a room, we would have met before the meeting. This darn Zoom format doesn't allow me to be a good ambassador, but we're super glad to have you today, and thank you for taking the time, and take it away. Like, tell us what's going on and what you advise.
This is Gerard Stranch, and we appreciate being invited to come back and to talk with everyone today. At the outset, General Baldwin sends his apologies for not being able to be here. If you hadn't heard, he's been diagnosed with COVID, and he is home with his wife, who is also sick. And so he was unable to be on this Zoom today as a result. Shortly after our last meeting, the Tennessee Supreme Court ruled, and when they ruled, the one thing that they did was they vindicated our theory of the case, which is that the pharmaceutical manufacturers, distributors, retailers can have liability under the Tennessee Drug Dealer Liability Act if they participate in the illegal drug market. In fact, the Tennessee Supreme Court went through specific factual allegations in our complaint as to the volume of pills that they were shipping into Washington County and other counties, and the lack of anti-diversion programs that they had, and said, if those things are true, that makes a claim. And those things are true, and we've proven those through discovery, and they're not in dispute. And so we think that makes the case overall stronger. The one wrinkle that occurred was what we had discussed about the Supreme Court might have issues with whether the DAs could bring the claims on behalf of the counties, and that there might need to be a ratification or a substitution. Well, the Supreme Court spoke on that and said the district attorney generals can be attorneys on behalf of the municipalities and localities, but they cannot bring the claim in their own name. And so what we're here to do is to fix the last little loophole. It'll be under Rule 17 of the Rules of Civil Procedure, which will allow the county to then substitute in as the party in interest. And the DA will then continue as the lawyer on behalf of the county, as will my firm. And so we've provided the traditional retention agreement. We've provided the resolution for that. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any questions. And I'm happy to discuss further, but y'all have a lot going on. And I don't want to beat a dead horse to death if I don't need to.
Questions for Mr. Strange? Mr. Wheeler?
Not so much a question, but I had raised some questions last time, and I think what this does is absolutely addresses any of the questions I had by putting the county in directly as a party. So I'm not going to make a motion yet. I'll be glad to later, but in case anybody else has questions. But I think this is right where we need to be, and I'm fully supportive of this.
I did have a chance to talk with General Baldwin briefly before the holidays about this change, and he seemed to feel that this would actually improve the county's authority to do something if we win the lawsuit. It gives us more authority.
Yeah.
For example, in devising this committee that we discussed a little bit last time. So,
yeah, and I think it also gives you more leverage vis-a-vis the defendants, because they can no longer say, well, the Tennessee Supreme Court may let us out and say you can't bring this claim against us. That is now foreclosed, and they will face a jury over this whether they like it or not now.
Commissioner Davenport.
Ms. Wilkinson, do you have any issues with this? Do you see any concerns?
Thank you for asking, Commissioner. I will tell you it's really a legal issue that he's talking about, that counsel is describing about substituting in. If I can clarify for you specifically, there is a draft resolution that Brandstetter sent around, but what they're specifically requesting in action from this committee is that you request a resolution, and I'm looking, excuse me for looking away, but it is one supporting the lawsuit, and also as going forward as a named plaintiff, but retaining the District Attorney General Baldwin and the Brandstetter firm. And as you know, that typically means authorizing the county mayor to do so, because our chief executive is the one who signs such agreements. They've provided you a draft retainer agreement. Without going into a lot of super detail, of course, it's public information that was all provided. You are looking at a retainer agreement that I think you may be interested to know really talks about trial. Am I right about that, counsel? That's one of the things that came up at the commission meeting, was the participation of the commission and the county. And that may be something to develop further, but right now, Commissioner Davenport, I don't have any real concerns, but I want you to know the action that's being requested is very specific, and it is for the county to enter in its own name individually. And counsel, please tell me if I'm misstating. And I'm looking at you. My camera is over here, so excuse me. I'm not looking out the window. So it's to retain brands, to enter as a plaintiff individually as the county, not just the First Judicial District, right? And to retain General Baldwin and the Brandstetter firm on behalf of Washington County, and to authorize the mayor to execute the retainer agreement that has been provided to you. Commissioner Jones circulated that. So whatever questions you might have about that action, I defer to you. But as a legal matter, it's about substituting in and standing, and you'll be delighted to know I will not drag you through that.
That last comment was meant for me, I believe.
I'd be happy to provide the briefing on this to anyone that would like some light, help them fall asleep at night reading.
Commissioner Davenport keeps it in. She's a very efficient, effective, point-driven commissioner. So if you have any further questions, I will address them. And maybe you want to call me individually with particular concerns. But I would direct you to that retainer agreement and see if there's something there that, you know, raises a question for you. And my point was simply that I would alert everyone to the fact that I think it's really styled about trial, because it talks about the compensation, et cetera. And you might have some questions about how that works, about how the Brandstetter firm would go to the court and ask for the compensation, I'm sure you'd be interested to know if the county would be paying legal fees, for example. That might be something that you want to know about, and they're here to tell you about that.
Well, and that was kind of going to be my next question. If I understood it, if I remember things correctly, it's been a while. We passed a resolution at the last commission meeting. Is that right? Okay. So now I have this resolution. Does that void that I voted on last month, or is this an also? If that's any kind of question, that's it.
From the county perspective, for your benefit, Mr. Staunch, that the county's resolution would be worded in a way to address the commission's concern about how the two would relate to one another. And I can talk to you about that, but generally would recommend that this resolution would be written in such a way that it addresses that relationship is that's no longer, and it would be a direct representation between the county, General Baldwin, and the firm.
Yes.
But the compensation aspect then is within that retainer agreement, and that would probably be of interest to this legislative body because there's a set budget on legal expenses outside the two salaried employees. So they need to know about that when they consider the retainer, and if there's a difference between settlement and trial costs.
And I just want to be clear on the retainer agreement. The county will have no obligation to pay any expenses or any attorney fees at all out of their own pockets. If we are successful, then we would seek to, and try the case, we would seek to have the court award our fees and expenses and would receive those from the defendants, allowing you to keep the full recovery for yourself. If there is a resolution that does not have a attorney's fee and expense component of it, then we would take our expenses and the fees out of, in a contingency format, out of the recovery for the county. But to be clear, we've committed in there that would be a last ditch effort, and we will try to do everything we can to seek the fees through other means so that it would leave your recovery undisturbed.
But that's different than our last resolution. Is that?
Well,
did I misunderstand our last resolution?
It is different in that at the last resolution was supporting that it would go through the first judicial district and we would deal with them on that. That's the main difference. But it's the same concept, which is we're going to try to get somebody else to pay it so you don't have to.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to proceed?
Move that we request a resolution be drafted to accept the retainer agreement and to, I guess, I don't know if it needs to be a separate resolution or not, but a resolution in the form that's been given to us in our packet today supporting the lawsuit.
Commissioner Wheeler, is there a difference in your mind between using the language of the resolution? I guess we're supposed to actually entertain a second before we have discussion. Is there a second on this motion?
Second.
Thanks. Is there a difference in your mind of the motion asking to use the language of the resolution that was submitted versus having our county attorney draft a resolution?
Well, and I think I used the word based on the language in the draft. I think she needs to put it in our format. But
okay.
Is that satisfactory, Ms. Wilkinson?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Motion is second. Any more discussion? Okay. We'll follow a roll call vote. Wheeler,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Edens,
Yes.
Williams. Commissioner Williams. Jones, yes. Great. Thank you all for, are you there?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for attending our meeting. We appreciated having real people here to explain this to us. And, hopefully we won't be back again next month, and we wish you luck in your work with this.
Thank you. If we're back like next month, it's going to be because we're going to have very good news for you. So maybe we will be.
We would take that. We would take that. Coming back for that works. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And good luck, everyone, in 2021.
We're going to need it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, very good. So now we're on to item 10, which is Mr. Irwin, our county archivist, who is asking us to support a resolution in recovering an important historical document. And so, Mr. Irwin, I pass it to you to tell us a bit more.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know time's brief, so I'll try to be brief. A little bit of a background. As you may know, over the past couple of years, the archives, working with the county attorney, has been trying to recover any Washington County records that, for whatever reason, had left the custody of the county. And we've been very successful in this endeavor. We've recovered nearly 12,000 county records. But there's one record we've not been able to get returned, and that's where we've reached a point where we need your help and that of the full commission in trying to recover the document. The document we're talking about is the county's first deed book A. This document was sent to Nashville in 1897 to be part of the county's exhibit for the Tennessee State Centennial celebrations and was never returned. At some point, it ended up at the Tennessee State Library and Archives, where it is today. So we're asking this committee and then the full commission to adopt a resolution that formally asks that the Tennessee State Library and Archives return Deed Book A to Washington County. And we're also in this endeavor in seeking assistance of our local state legislative delegation, and we actually met with them earlier last month, and they are on board with us and are agreeing to help us in Nashville. So I'm asking them today if you all would approve a resolution requesting the return of Deed Book A to the county from the Tennessee State Library and Archives. And I'll stop there to see if there's any questions.
Commissioner Jones, as chair, if I could just address you briefly on behalf of the archivist. I think he has a third prong on his request, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, Mr. Irwin, that you also wanted the authorization to the county archivist and county attorney to act on behalf of the county in a recovery effort and to use whatever means necessary under the law, which he's referring to a replevin action or any other lawsuit that would be required to secure the document. Is that still correct, Mr. Irwin?
That is correct. Yes, we need to add that too. Thank you for reminding me.
Mr. Irwin, can you help me understand why documents like this can be hard? I mean, it seems to make sense that documents should be returned to the place where they originated and stored in the county that has the historical relationship with the document. But so why wouldn't everyone just agree on that? And why is this requiring action?
I'm not exactly clear why the State Library and Archives doesn't want to return the book. A few years ago, we requested, and they did return other early Washington County records, the first minutes of the county court, for instance, all in the handwriting of John Sevier, who was the first county clerk, and other documents like that. But this one particular document they've held back, and I'm not exactly sure I can answer the question as to why, to be honest. I'd like to know myself.
I'm just super curious, but like, do you correspond in writing? Are there no people that you can talk to about this?
I have probably taken as far as I can take it. I have dealt with, through email and correspondence, with the officials at the State Library and Archives, like I said, for about the last year and a half. And they would keep coming back with reasons why they thought it should stay there. And then when I would disprove those reasons, they would come up with some other excuses to keep it. The addendum that's attached to your agenda gives you, where we spell out the reasons we feel it's a Washington County record and should be returned to the county, and those would be the arguments we would be using in Nashville. But at this point, I think I've taken as far as I can take it, and we need to take it up to a higher level, probably to the Secretary of State, who is over the Tennessee State Library and Archives. And that's what we'll be discussing with our state legislative delegation to help us on that.
Just for clarity, in order to support some of the work that Ned is doing with respect to that, felt like it would be important when team goes to Nashville to make this request to the Secretary of State, that it have the full support of the county commission as well. And that's part of the reason why the request is in front of you today.
Other questions, or Commissioner Wheeler?
One question about going so far as to authorize the repugnant action. Is there any concern that may sometimes when you threaten litigation like that, it backfires? Is there any concern that should we consider holding off on authorizing a lawsuit for the time being, or is there a reason that you want that in this now? Sometimes when I'm negotiating, I might rather not have that.
Well, negotiations and diplomacy is how we've been doing it, and that's how we want to continue to do it. We want to avoid any legal action if we possibly can. I'll agree with you there, Commissioner Wheeler.
Do either you or Ms. Wilkinson see any problem with holding off on? I mean, I would, if they simply refused, I certainly would consider that. But I just don't know. Do you need it now? I guess is the question to both of them.
Maybe we were thinking so we didn't have to keep coming back to the commission and bringing it up, but it is something to think about. What do you think, Allison?
Thank you. I would think the commissioners would be interested to know that your archives committee approved the effort or the action all the way to with full authority. I think maybe a year and a half. It was maybe it's been 2 years ago, and the archivist has been extremely prudent and diplomatic in the course of action. And so I would say that it would be beneficial to have that authority, but I can also see if you'd like to hear a report back before, anything was filed. That makes a lot of sense. That would be what I would expect anyway. I think that you would want to see any action before it was filed and have an update, and you would want to know expenses and risks and that sort of thing, but I think that it would be good to give that authority to the county archivist and to the county attorney, because the statutes are clear that the county attorney does have the authority to take that action on behalf of the county. And I think and we've exchanged correspondence. I want you to know that, not just between the county archives and the pertinent people in Nashville, but then also within council. So this has really gone in a number of steps up to this point, and I think it would be very meaningful when you send the message of support that it does include that you recognize that is a big request, but that you are behind your county archivist you might recall, and if you weren't a commissioner then, that the county passed a resolution. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Irwin. I think in 2011, where you funded this archives. And so the county does have, and that's something we've put in this correspondence, the county has an incredible facility that this commission has funded in the past and continues to fund. And so I would recommend that you put your full support behind the archivist and authorize the county attorney to take any action. And I absolutely welcome reporting back to you before anything is filed.
My recommendation, if we do that, is that we make two resolutions. If you want to move forward that way, this resolution that we'd contemplated would be part of information that we would provide to the Secretary of State and his team, so they would see exactly what's in the resolution. And the intent really is to just be sure they understand that it's not just a couple of people going down there, but it has the full backing of the county commission, the legislative body.
So one resolution would provide more of a general interest or support of the county commission for having the documents returned, and then for the deed book returned, and then the other resolution would be worded the way we originally discussed, which includes going a bit further in supporting that. Did I get that right?
What if we, maybe somewhat of an in-between would be if we, and I'm really addressing this to both the mayor and Ms. Wilkinson, but if we said something to the fact that we authorize the county attorney to assist the archivist in whatever steps are necessary to recover the document, leave out the authorization specifically for the suit. We could even say, and come back to us with a report of any further action necessary on our part to obtain the document. You know, something along those lines. It's more, a little more forceful than just we want the document back, but it wouldn't mention the replevant action specifically. I don't think you'd have any problem if we need to do that later, you know, discussing, like you said, the different factors involved in considering doing that. But it might actually give you more, rather than having to discuss right now what the everything from the cost to the political ramifications of a replevant action. If we just say, you know, take what steps are necessary to get the document back, and then let you all come back if you need, and we can put it in there that, you know, to report back to us and for any further authorization you need. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense to me, and I'll go back to the way I originally phrased it, that I think that what Mr. Irwin was requesting was authority for the county archivist and county attorney to act on behalf of the county in the recovery effort. And so my sharing with you was just full disclosure that that's where it would go. This is not at all a rattling of the sabers asking for authority to sue someone. I felt in full disclosure, I should tell you that. So I have no problem at all, and perhaps that would address the mayor's point, because I think having one resolution that's precise and really succinctly addresses the county's position would be more beneficial than, you know, splitting the issue. So would that address, Mr. Mayor, does that address your concern that it could be boiled down into one resolution if it was framed in that way and doesn't make any specific reference to by any means necessary or anything like that? Would that satisfy your questions?
Yeah, I think that's actually perfect. It works great. Good compromise.
I would agree. I would agree too.
If I say so moved, Ms. Wilkinson, do you have enough to put the resolution together?
I do. I do. You've been very clear, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Unless Mr. Irwin has anything else to add for me to include for your consideration, I'm in a good position. Thank you for asking.
No, I think that gets the gist of what we're trying to do, and we appreciate your support.
Well, if it would it be okay though that I do tell them, Mr. Irwin, for benefit's sake, that they can reach out to you or to me for a fascinating case about the recovery of the marriage license of David Crockett, that could give them some excellent context to consider how important these types of things are in our great state of Tennessee.
And that happened just a couple of counties away.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you.
Well, we have we have a motion on the table, but we haven't had a second. Can I second it? I'll second it. Great. Let's, any further discussion on this issue? All right, we'll go with the roll call vote. Wheeler?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Edens?
Yes.
And I believe Commissioner Williams is off the call. Jones, yes. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Irwin, for all you do and for bringing this
Thank you, Commissioners.
Great. Okay, so we're moving on to the library report. And in this particular report, we'll hear about applications for the board. Welcome, Mr. Griffin. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner. The Washington County Library is still unfortunately closed due to the COVID. We are providing curbside service. Curbside service has been extremely popular, so when we design our new libraries, we will probably need to include a drive-up window. We are also working with the AARP to look at how we can also provide tax counseling, hopefully starting in February. That's still under discussion, but hopefully we can arrange that. And I can answer any questions.
Mr. Griffin, we do have these 3 applications before us, folks who have applied to the board. Is that something you need us to take action on today?
Yes, please. 2 individuals on that list, Mr. Crystal Hawkins and Stephen Campbell, are currently on the board finishing out terms from other people. The other individual, I don't know. So.
And how many vacancies do you need to fill?
2.
Okay. And I just want to note that the third one that you don't know, the person that's not been on the board to this point, listed a few other boards as of interest. Mm-hmm. So it seems that she would be willing to serve in other capacities if the library board wasn't, the right place right now. And I believe we have openings on those other boards. Or does anyone know if we do? Mayor, do we have openings on, I don't have it in front of me now.
There's an opening on planning, but yes, there'll be a recommendation to fill that.
You mean you think there'll be a recommendation to fill that by someone else, and so?
I'm not sure, but I think the commission will see a recommendation for planning to be filled at this meeting from the planning commission.
Okay. Mr. Griffin, do you have a recommendation to us about who you feel like would be the best candidates for the position?
Yes, it is. Since for one, I've known them and they have been on the board for some time. My recommendation is Ms. Hawkins and Mr. Campbell.
Continue.
Please.
How many terms have they served on the board?
They are both for terms. They are actually finishing out terms from other individuals who have had to resign because of illness or other incidents.
So they're pretty new to the board.
Yeah, they've not done 3 years.
Okay. Fair enough. One of the reasons we started this application process was to try to bring more and different people to our boards, but it sounds like you're in progress with those 2 folks.
Yes.
When we make, if we approved the two that are currently on the board and haven't served even a full term yet. Will the third applicant be notified in any way? Will they understand? Will they be given some indication of what, even the why we need to make that part of our motion?
It's a great question. Who handles these applications? Do they come to Sherry?
Yeah, they come to the mayor's office. And as you can see, this individual has indicated an interest in multiple places in the county, just has a willingness to serve as a citizen. So since the library was specifically mentioned, you know, her file was moved into this consideration.
Was her file moved into the other groups that she asked for as well?
Yeah, it would have been, sure.
And to Commissioner Wheeler's point, what is our process for letting people know why they weren't chosen or handling people after the fact?
I don't think we've been given any instructions with respect to that. As you know, this is a new process. So this is probably the first that we have. So I think it would, you know, I think these, I don't know that it really specifically says that we would, you know, keep this information on file, but in the case
yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor, but it actually does. I can answer my own question looking at it. In the please note section right after the list of the committees, it says we'll keep it on file for a year. And then after a year, they need to submit a new application if they haven't been appointed. And I do think it'll be tough for Ms. Green to try to set out why somebody didn't get appointed, her not being in the meetings for one thing, but also just that puts her kind of that'd be a huge amount of work to put on somebody too. But it does say that we keep them on file for a year.
Does it make sense for me to draft a short email since I was the chair of the group that made the determination?
I personally don't think we ought to be identifying specific reasons why someone was not considered for a committee. It seems to me that gets us into some areas we may not want to go.
You could, though, thank them for their interest and just let them reiterate what it says here, that'll be kept on file for other vacancies for a period of the year. That'll be purged after June 30th of each year.
I think that's really important. I think we're really, to the spirit of this whole application process, want to encourage people when they're not chosen to stay in the pool, to stay interested, to continue to look at, I mean, if her application only lists those three boards, that may be because those are the only ones with openings right now, but 6 months from now, there may be others. How does she retool her application, just to kind of give people some reinforcement for staying interested in civic life? And
Commissioner Jones, if I may just give you some context, that Mr. Griffin submitted the two individuals that the library board was recommending, and the library board, you know, has its own bylaws, etc. And then he realized that with the process, he went through the steps of that. So the vacancy on this board was advertised in a way that was consistent with the commission's resolution setting out this procedure. So this only happened, I think, a month ago. It was right before the meeting in December. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Griffin.
That's correct.
So it went out as to a library, you know, vacancy. All right, that was and then this applicant apparently included some others. So I think then there are the other ones. I think that there are vacancies on Planning Commission, and that's a mayoral appointment subject to the legislative body's approval, and then the Board of Zoning Appeals, which I think is a legislative body appointment. So this is a great opportunity if y'all would like to weigh in on how you want that to flow, because this hasn't happened before. I'm really trying to point out that her application came in response to notice that there was a vacancy on the library board. And so, if that would be the very specific thing that if you were addressing that the library recommended two others and that her name has been retained, that could be from the county generally. But does that help at all? I'll give you some context, and maybe you could give some feedback on how you'd like to see it, because that was not addressed in the original rule.
I just personally think that it would be great for someone to follow up with applicants that are not selected and say, we made a decision, we want you to stay involved, you're still in the list, stay in touch. I don't know, something.
But I don't think we have to have any action on that if you're just going to handle that as that's somewhat in an informal contact.
Yeah, we haven't really established whether that's happening or if I should do it or if someone else will do it.
If you ask me to do it, Commissioner Jones, I will do it.
Okay.
I'm not sure the appropriate person to do it, but I agree with you, Commissioner Jones. I mean, people that actually take the time to turn into these things, it shouldn't be like they just went in a dark hole and they never get any information back. And then we'll sit around and go, well, I wonder why no one turns in for these things, right? So, I don't know. I think it should be Ms. Wilkinson or the mayor's office or something like that, because we'll have different committees or different boards or whatever dealing with these things that you won't be part of or I won't be a part of, that the mayor's office would be around. So I think it should come from someone there.
And I'm happy to do that. And I was saying that if you asked me to, because I didn't want to just jump in and insert myself. But, under the rules, your procedural rules, the chairman of the commission and the county attorney's office have the look at the jurisdiction issue as to what committee would look at it, et cetera. So it would be appropriate, and I'm very happy to do it. And that way, I'll accept the responsibility that I send it to the right place, and you'll know that that's happened. If that helps, and then if you don't like the way that looks, you can tell me, and we'll revise the process. But at least you'll have something to look at. Would that be satisfactory to you?
That would be great. Thank you for offering to do that.
Yeah, and that way it's going to be consistent as well.
And I'll copy you on it if you would like for me to, so that the person will know that it's at the request of the Health Education Welfare Committee. Yes?
I like that idea.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Working together. All right. Well, we're working together to get to the end of this agenda. I do not see the health department here. Mayor Grandy, do we have a new health department director?
We do. As of Monday, we have a new Washington County Health Department director. His name is Chris Hodgson. I have met him and spent maybe an hour and a half with him or so. He is a former retired Air Force leader. Very interesting guy, has a great background, and I believe will make a very fine health department director, although at the moment he is consuming local health issues by fire hose method. And he is, this afternoon, he is involved with the health department finance group. So I told him he had already spent the best part of his day. He was going into the
Hodgkin or Hodgson? What did you say?
Hodgson.
Hodgson.
Hodgin.
Okay.
So health department stuff. There's tons of things going on right now. If you're getting calls, we had a phenomenal day Saturday in terms of vaccination, dosing 1,077 individuals in an 8.5 hour period at Freedom Hall POD. Amazing effort from about probably 50 to 60 individuals in that logistics effort. So pretty phenomenal. Since then, we have received 0 vaccine, and we were promised 300 doses. We plan to have the pot open every afternoon this week. It's not been open a single day. It's very frustrating. The vaccine has been ordered. It just hasn't been delivered, and there are definitely significant logistics issues out of the state level. We're one of at least 20 other counties that have received no vaccine this week. So if you hear complaints, the team is ready to roll. We just don't have any product. So, that's the update. Sorry to make that long.
That's worth being long. And honestly, I have actually just recently published a paper on vaccine distribution and how important it is to involve grassroots level stakeholders like government and community members in the plan for distribution, because then there's a better opportunity for everybody to sort of know what's going on and not be freaked out by pauses in availability or concerns about equity in distribution. Is it worth having, and I don't want to burden anyone that's already overwhelmed by work, but is it worth having Mr. Hodgson or anyone else come, could be Kershke or someone, to the county commission meeting and provide a little overview of some of the challenges they face, some of the solutions they're dealing with, and give them an opportunity to help us all be better informed about what's going on?
Yeah, the plan is to have Chris on the call for the county commission. Again, this is day 4 for him, and he really is inundated. He asked me to pass along, his best to this group, and looks forward to addressing the full commission at the end of the month, where there'll be an update and hopefully a little bit better news about the the distribution of the vaccine. Although I will say that over almost 1,100 doses in one day in one site is a state record by over 20%. And we have a great team locally that's working on that. In addition to Ballot, and now some of the pharmacies are coming on board with vaccines as well to help in some of our other healthcare areas. So they are effectively working together. There's a plan. The reality is that the state changes the rules almost daily. So it's really been challenging for the local folks to catch up. And one of the things that, I think it's a good thing, one of the things that they did last week at the very 9th hour was to layer in this age group. So we're now vaccinating 75-year-old plus individuals. There's still 4,800 of those left to go in our county. So there's work to be done to get that group, but they were not part of the phased distribution until the 31st of December. So that made Saturday a little bit interesting, but nevertheless, it's a great population. So we're still wrapping up the early part of the phase 1 group, first responders, being sure that we have all those people covered, and then have moved on to other healthcare workers. And in phase 1B, school teachers and school individuals, childcare associates, and so forth were moved into that category, and they hadn't been there before. So they've moved those up, and that might help. As Dr. Flannery mentioned earlier, get our schools back open in February.
Thank you. And I don't think there's any doubt that our region is doing better than the rest of the state in distributing vaccines. And there's even data showing that we have a higher distribution rate than other parts of the state. So no questions there, just, absolutely all of this information was very helpful, and I think more information is better, so thank you for that. Please tell Mr. Hodgson that we're excited to work with him. Pass it on back and thank him for all of his efforts. I cannot imagine starting that job right now. Wow. Okay. County attorney report.
I don't have a specific report for you today, and I know your meeting has been long and I've already spoken to you a lot. So please just let me know if there's anything that you'd like more information on the action you've taken in this meeting, maybe between now and the commission meeting. I'm happy to prepare that for you, or I'm always available if you want to give me a call or email me or ask me now, as you wish.
Any questions for our attorney? Awesome. Is there any other business? I just want to make sure to note that we did meet in a special call meeting on Tuesday and passed one resolution to work with our partners at the First Tennessee Development District to help fund testing for folks who are unable to get funded for ACT testing in any other way. So that's in progress as a result of that special called meeting. And I think that's it for today, friends. I appreciate you being willing to go in a few extra minutes. And at this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Davenport. Second by Commissioner Wheeler. And so I guess we'll do a roll call vote on this one too. Davenport?
Yes.
Wheeler?
Yes.
Edens?
Yes.
And Jones, yes. Thank you all so much and have a great day.